Though not the prettiest boat on the lakes, she was the largest and the pride of her owners. She was reliable, had plenty of room for cargo, and sailed smooth as a yacht. Despite this reliability, newspapers would debate her looks and turn their noses up at her judgingly. She served dutifully, taking all sorts of cargoes across the lakes: coal, wheat, and even oats. Though she was abundantly capable, human error would play a huge factor in her career, with the bottom of the hull grinding against the lake bed. Assuming she was still seaworthy, she continued on her next voyage. Little did she or her crew know, this was a massive mistake, and it would have costly consequences. SS Onoko was an iron-hulled Great Lakes freighter built as Yard No. 4 by Globe Iron Works Company in Cleveland, Ohio, for the Minch Transportation Company of the Kinsman Steamship Company. She was launched on February 16, 1882, and designed to take advantage of the channel's 17-foot depth opened in 1881 when the new Weitzel Lock was built at the Sioux Locks. On February 16, 1882, about 5,000 people came to see the launch of Onoko despite the rough weather conditions outside. She was launched at 3 p.m. to the roar of cheers as she hit the water. She was completed shortly thereafter and enrolled in Cleveland on March 31, 1882. On her maiden voyage on April 19, 1882, Onoko sailed from Cleveland, leaving port at 11 p.m. and arriving in Chicago around 2 p.m. the following day. She was carrying 2,536 tons of coal. Onoko's captain reported that she, quote, behaved splendidly and steered like a yacht. By April 25th, Onoko had been loaded with a cargo of wheat bound for Buffalo, New York, and left at 3:30 p.m. She discharged 88,140 bushels of wheat at the Niagara B elevator. Not a bit of the cargo was wet. It was thought that Onoko could carry 115,000 to 120,000 bushels of wheat. Onoko's capacity to carry oats was believed to be around 155,000 bushels. The Buffalo Courier provides an accurate account of when Onoko arrived in Buffalo, saying that, quote, about noon on Saturday, the new iron steamer Onoko arrived here with something over 88,000 bushels of wheat. She left Chicago last Tuesday at 4:20 p.m., and her time in coming down was 3 days and 19 and a half hours. Despite this, they absolutely roasted her looks, stating that she was the largest vessel afloat on the lakes, quote, and by far the homeliest. Her owners did not like this, and on May 5, 1882, the Cleveland Herald argued that function trumped form, stating that calling her an eyesore was, quote, ridiculous in view of late developments. Despite not being the prettiest princess at the prom, the boat had proven her worthiness to her owners within her first 2 years of carrying bulk cargoes on the Great Lakes. On August 22, 1884, the Cleveland Herald reported that Onoko had, quote, proved even more successful than her owners hoped for. In 1895, 2 of Onoko's masts were removed. Her wooden forecastle was replaced with a steel deck and steel pilot house structure. In 1896, she had her boilers replaced. On May 16, 1896, Onoko collided with the schooner Mary D. Ayer in heavy fog on Lake Michigan. 5 sailors on Mary D. Ayer died. Onoko's wooden spar deck was replaced with steel in 1901. Later that year, the principal owners of Onoko, the Nicholas Transportation Company, bought out all the lesser stockholders to become the sole owner of Onoko. Onoko had steel aft cabins installed in 1907 to 1908. In 1910, Captain Harry Stewart was appointed as the master of Onoko. On the night of December 1, 1910, Onoko ran aground on Southeast Shoal during a snowstorm 60 miles below Amherstburg, between Point Pelee and Wheatley, Ontario. She was released with 3 tugs, including Harding and Rescue, that were sent to rescue Onoko. She was carrying coal at the time. On December 2, 1910, the Duluth Herald wrote an article saying Onoko was not in any serious danger. The tugs succeeded in refloating her without serious damage to her hull. On October 7, 1912, Onoko sprang a leak and was intentionally beached in the Apostle Islands. The cost to patch her hull was minimal, but she would lose everything in just a few short years. Thank you so much to our amazing YouTube members and patrons. If you'd like to have some awesome perks like episodes a full day in advance, join our YouTube memberships today. Okay, let's get into the sinking of Onoko. In early September of 1915, Onoko had grounded while departing a grain elevator in Duluth, but freed herself and cleared the harbor safely. It is thought that the damage to the hull plating resulting from the grounding led to the development of an aggressive leak that sank her a few days later after one of her hull plates was believed to have just fallen off mid-voyage. Spoiler alert. On September 15, 1915, Onoko departed Duluth, Minnesota with 110,000 bushels of wheat bound for Toledo, Ohio. She sprang a major leak off Knife Island, about 15 miles from Duluth, Minnesota, and she would sink stern first in just 35 short minutes. On September 15, 1915, the Duluth Herald wrote an article saying, quote, "All went well and the sea was smooth. When while on the regular course about 9 miles off Knife Island, the engineer J.J. Higgins reported to the master, Captain W.R. Dunn, that the vessel had sprung a leak under the engines and that water was coming in fast. When Captain Dunn went back to investigate, the water was spurting in and in a few minutes drowned out the fire. The captain saw that the situation was hopeless and ordered out the boats. All of the crew, including the one woman on board, Mrs. C.R. Cranby, wife of the steward, and the lone passenger, Antone Rehor, a cement contractor of Cleveland, had no trouble reaching the boats in safety, and in a few minutes the steamer, her stern having filled rapidly, tossed her nose in the air and plunged stern first to the bottom. The boats were at a safe distance, and the members of the crew were not worried. Before they left the ship, they saw the steamer Renown, a tanker belonging to the Standard Oil Company, which had left Duluth shortly after Onoko, coming on full speed, the master of the tanker having noticed that Onoko was settling. In a few minutes, Renown, with Barge C in tow, came up and picked up the occupants of the lifeboats. Renown put about and took the crew back to Duluth, being met just outside the Duluth Canal by a tug, which took Onoko's crew off, Renown and her tow resuming their journey down the lakes." End quote. After one of the plates had worked loose and simply just fallen off the boat, thousands of tons of water poured in unabated. The crew abandoned their doomed ship in the lifeboats prior to the ship sinking in what was estimated to be about 340 feet of water in just 35 short minutes. Fortunately, the tanker Renown was nearby and their captain had correctly assessed the situation, turned his ship, and swooped in to help. They rescued all of the drifting sailors and even captured photos of Onoko as she sank. The loss of the ship and her cargo resulted in no deaths, but about $160,000 was lost between the ship and her cargo of wheat. The boat's wreckage was discovered on April 10, 1988, though some sources claim it was sometime in 1987 by Jerry Eliason of Scanlon, Minnesota, and Craig Smith of Rice Lake, Wisconsin, after they conducted a thorough search using a depth finder. Her wreck rests upside down in 220 feet of water with her stern buried almost completely in soft sediment and mud. Her hull is nearly broken in two, with a split in her hull right in front of her boilers. Her wreck is surrounded by many artifacts from inside and outside her hull. Her full cargo of grain is still in the hold, and it is illegal to remove artifacts from her wreck without permission because she is protected by the state of Minnesota.